The sad truth is that shelters are in a situation that they haven't seen in over 5 years.
Shelters across the country are inundated with animals, many of them having to euthanize in order to make room.
News 13's Hannah McKenzie reports shelters in our area are no exception.
Animal shelters across the country packed with more paws than they'd prefer. Here's one of the newest residents at Brother Wolf Animal Rescue in Asheville, and she came with 6 litter mates.
We have about 150 animals in our care right now between our shelter and foster home, and that's a very high number for our smaller organization.
60% of Brother Wolf's animals come from surrounding shelters, says Executive Director Leah Craig Fieser, and they don't euthanize.
Brother Wolf plays a huge role in helping shelters when they're over capacity. We never want an animal to lose their life simply because of a lack of space.
In the last few days, the Asheville Humane Society, which also runs the Buncombe County Animal Shelter, taking in more than 50 cats and dogs, says Garrison Stevens.
Right now, all of our dog kennels are full at capacity. Our shelter next door is also at capacity.
They don't euthanize either, says Stevens, but unprecedented intake numbers and a decline in adoptions yields a heartbreaking reality for others. Rutherford County Animal Control Services forced to euthanize 11 dogs this week. The McDowell County Animal Shelter posting they too are having to make some very unfortunate decisions. Inflation and the effects of COVID are factors, says Fieser, leaving the ones who do get a second chance, like Strawberry, waiting a little longer for a forever home.
We're just seeing so many families having to move or having to give up their pets. They can't afford medical care, or they couldn't afford to get spay and neuter during the pandemic, and so now we're seeing the results of a lack of spay and neuter.
The best way you can help is by fostering. If you can't do that, donations, either monetary or supplies, can help ease the burden on local shelters.
We're going beyond the numbers tonight. We hear from one of the close to 150 Asheville City Schools employees who resigned this school year.
News 13's Andrew James talked with a teacher who resigned back in the fall about the reasons for her decision and the challenges she faced.
This is really putting a face to the numbers when it comes to the resignations we've reported on in Asheville City Schools. I talked to a former teacher here at Isaac Dixon about her decision to leave education altogether. 146, that's the number of resignations in Asheville City Schools this past school year.
Wow. What does that number say to you as someone who is also leaving the school system?
That people are so sick of it.
Jane Calleja is one of the teachers who resigned, deciding to leave public education completely. She was a Spanish teacher at Isaac Dixon before leaving last November.
It's really challenging to work in a place where it feels like you're very left on your own when you know that there are things that need to be done for our children.
She tells me teachers faced many more challenges with students returning from virtual learning during the pandemic, and that she felt there was not enough support.
When the top is not taking the steps that they could be taking to ensure that everybody is going to succeed in the situation, then that just domino effects down to the level of leadership within the school.
That support, she says, isn't just specific to Asheville City Schools, but also systemic challenges in public education, pushing more teachers out the door.
What's happening is people are leaving one system, going to another. And that same system, people are leaving and going somewhere else.
In an interview earlier this week, Interim Superintendent Dr. Jim Cosby said attrition is something that's happening everywhere. As of last month, Asheville City Schools had 67 vacancies, a top priority before school is back in session.
It's the same everywhere. Do we have some things to deal with on communications and motivation and people feeling good about what they get on? Yes. Yes, but we can do that.
And I did reach out to Asheville City Schools for a response about this specific teacher's decision. At this point, I have not heard back.
Another victim of Vincent Hill, a serial rapist convicted in 2018, is stepping forward.
This woman is saying she just wants her day in court. Right now, Hill is facing a felony first-degree forced sex offense in her case, but it's been pending in the court system for the last 7 years.
News 13's Kristen Aguirre sat down with the woman to learn why she's coming forward now.
It's here in the Carolina Avian Research and Education Center in Fletcher where Leanne Sherrouse can get a moment of peace. When she's with her birds, the anxiety leaves her.
I am terrified at night.
Leanne built this place after she was attacked in October 2016.
I was so happy. I had started a florist business, and I was delivering flowers when it happened.
Now, a shell of who she was before her rape.
Now I'm full of fear and trauma.
This man, 48-year-old Vincent Shane Hill, facing felony charges for her attack.
I don't want him to get out and hurt anybody else.
Hill serving 375 to 510 months in prison for first-degree forcible rape in another case back in 2018. He has a lengthy rap sheet filled with sexual offenses.
It's overwhelming. It's been too long. Nobody should be made to wait 7 years.
According to the Buncombe County Superior Court, Leanne's case is still pending.
And a lot of times survivors talk about feeling like their life is on hold until that day, that it's so wrapped up in their healing process, and that until that day happens, they feel like they're sort of just clenching and waiting.
Rita Snyder-Cotter with Our Voice, a sexual violence advocacy group, says only 20% of survivors report to police.
So we know that there's actually only a small percentage of survivors that decide to go forward with charges at all, and even a smaller percentage that actually make it to court day. And there's so much waiting that happens in there.
Leanne learning Hill will be released in 2040, a much lighter time behind bars than she thought.
I want my day in court because I'm a Christian.
Ready to share her story and move on with her life.
I need to look this man in the eye, and I need to forgive him. That's the most important thing to me.
In Buncombe County, Kristen Aguirre, News 13.
A tough story there. Now, Leanne has tried to reach out to the DA's office for information on her pending court date, but hasn't received a call back. Now, we reached out to the DA's office as well. We're still waiting on a reply.